One thing's for certain, the Boston Red Sox have solidified the top of their starting rotation for years to come.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and welcome to Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. I'm your host, Gabby Maljanian, former ESPN social media associate and current host of the Boston Balling podcast as well. And I am here to bring you the latest in all things Boston Red Sox, Monday through Friday straight to your favorite podcast feed. And the best part, it's all completely free. So make sure that you tune in because Locked On is here for you every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. Happy Thursday. Welcome to the show. I'll talk to you a little bit more about FanDuel later on in today's show, but the Red Sox did answer some questions after the 2025 season when it comes to the future of this team and the outlook moving forward. So on today's show, I'm going to be going over some of the biggest questions that the Red Sox answered. The main question that this team answered based on its 2025 season is that they have certainly found their ace of the future in Garrett Crochet. There's no doubt about the fact that the Red Sox starting rotation is in a much better place now than it was prior to the 2025 season. Garrett Crochet went out there and gave the Red Sox everything that they needed and more. 18-5 record, 2.59 ERA over 32 starts, 205.1 innings pitched, 255 strikeouts, and a 1.03 whip. Now, the innings pitched is notable because Crochet prior to 2025 was on an innings restriction. When he was with the White Sox, he wasn't pitching at the same volume in which he pitched for the Red Sox in 2025. And then he came to Boston and the Red Sox said, well, we're not going to have him on that tight of a leash. He's just going to pitch as much as he's able to. So he gave the Red Sox more length in the 2025 season than people thought that he was going to. So that's very notable. But also the fact that Garrett Crochet just cashed in so many different categories. 93rd percentile in strikeout percentage, 87th percentile in walk percentage, averaging just 5.7 walks. He was a guy who got tons of swing and miss stuff and didn't really give out free passes. That is truly what the definition of what those numbers mean. That he was just an ace. He brought the swing and miss stuff, didn't walk as many guys, was a guy who was just consistently super reliable. Average exit velocity was in the 85th percentile and fastball velocity 82nd percentile. So he had a really good arsenal of pitches that would travel very fast to be able to keep opposing hitters on their toes. His four-seam fastball, he used 36% of the time. He had a cutter in which he used 28% of the time, a sweeper that he used 16% of the time, a sinker that he also used 16% of the time, and a changeup that he used 4% of the time. Those were the 5 pitches that he leaned on and utilized the most in terms of his arsenal, and those were the pitches that he felt like he was able to put together and throw consistently at a competitive level. So the changeup, he doesn't really use that much, but having 5 pitches that you can throw is going to make you a very valuable and tough pitcher to face. And those were definitely big aspects of Garrett Crochet's game. And if Tarek Skubal didn't exist, who is just on another planet, then Crochet probably wins the Cy Young. And it's not like it was that far off. Crochet was ahead of Skubal in some categories, but ultimately it came down to the fact that Skubal was overall more consistent. Crochet had a couple poor starts late in the season that set back his chances. But hey, there's always next year. But the Red Sox rotation heading into 2025 felt like it had a sure thing at the top. And we haven't been able to say that for a while as Red Sox fans is, wow, we have a true #1 starting pitcher, because people could speculate as to who that was going to be based on the guys that were in the rotation, like Tanner Houck, Brian Bayo, etc. Prior to 2025, there were some unknowns as to who was going to fill that role as the Red Sox ace. bringing in Garrett Crochet eliminated all speculation and allowed us to say, okay, we have a true number one starting pitcher. And if you think about how it works in the postseason and the way that pitchers are used, if you have that number one at the top, he's going to be able to pitch 2 games for you in some of those series. Obviously, a best of 3 series, no. Best of 5 series, maybe, depending on how long that series goes. You could use your ace in game 1 and then again in game 5. And then in a 7-game series, he would no doubt be able to be used more than once. And that's the most important thing when it comes to wanting to build a championship contending team, is you need a guy that when he goes out there and throws, you know he's going to give you really good stuff. And you know that he's going to be a guy that can give you more than one outing in a postseason series, and you can feel fantastic about it without worrying. And that's exactly what we have in Garrett Crochet. And that's why it was so enjoyable watching him over the course of this season, because it had been previously like pulling teeth watching a lot of the Red Sox starting pitchers try to formulate into a number one, and they just didn't really have that. And this is no disrespect to any of the guys they have. I think there's a lot of potential with a lot of these players, like Connolly early. Brian Bayo has come a long way and is certainly a good, solid number 3 starting pitcher. Tanner Houck obviously was injured and missed most of the 2025 season. So if he comes back healthy, he would probably be a welcomed addition back into the Red Sox rotation as well. Cutter Crawford, who missed the entirety of the season, another guy who nobody's really talking about, but could make a contribution in the rotation. Could be another guy that's reliable. You want difference makers. And those guys all could be. Hunter Dobbins, another guy who is hoping to be healthy to start the 2025 season and has been very good about updating people on his injury recovery. He's another guy who could start in the Red Sox rotation in 2026 and could be reliable as well, because he was showing really good stuff prior to getting hurt. Before he got on the injured list, he ended up being a guy who the Red Sox could rely on consistently again in the starting rotation. And it's about consistency and constant development. And the Red Sox certainly have guys that are moving in the right direction. And I've talked about on the show how they still just have some question marks in the rotation. So they definitely could benefit from acquiring a true number 2 starting pitcher that they can slot in behind Garrett Crochet in that rotation. There's no doubt about it that would benefit this Red Sox team. So considering all of that, and considering the fact that the Red Sox are where they are right now, the fact that they were able to snag Garrett Crochet and not have to give up any current major league talent, and that they were able to get him for obviously talented prospects. They certainly gave up a haul from a prospect standpoint, but being able to pull off that trade in the way that they did, you do that every single time if you're the Boston Red Sox. That is a trade you look back on and say both teams probably benefited, because the White Sox got some really good young talent in return, while meanwhile the Red Sox solidified that they now have their ace for the future. So if I'm the Boston Red Sox, I'm so happy with the fact that we have Garrett Crochet and the season that he had, especially because there were concerns going into the season about his arm health, because that was one of the reasons why he was on an innings restriction when he was with the White Sox, was because there was some uncertainty surrounding how healthy his arm was and if he was going to be able to be durable enough to pitch deeper into games. And I'm so glad that the Red Sox said, we're not going to give him an innings restriction. He's going to pitch as much as he is able to. And it ended up paying off. And they did manage it well. They had him miss a few of his starts here and there sporadically just to give him some extra rest, because they were thinking long term and the fact that they would want him to be healthy for the postseason. So they were keeping that in mind. And they said, okay, let's have him miss some of his starts and take this day off instead of starting that day. So that way then he has the opportunity to be able to rest his arm and he's good to go. And that from a sustainability standpoint for the whole 162 game season and however many games we play in the playoffs, that he is healthy and ready to go. So the fact that the Red Sox have a true number 1 starting pitcher, that has no doubt been a question that was answered this year. Yes, they can now answer that question confidently and say, yes, we have a true ace of our rotation who's going to be our ace for years to come? This is a question that was left unanswered after a lot of the previous seasons, but the fact that they now have a guy in Garrett Crochet who is going to be that guy moving forward for the future is very exciting to think about if you're a Red Sox fan. So I'm looking forward to seeing how Garrett Crochet approaches the 2026 season and what he looks like. And coming up, another player that I am very excited about also helped answer another key question for the Red Sox in 2025. Are you looking to get into sports betting, or are you already really into it? Either way, FanDuel is 100% the place for you. With the NBA season back, there's no better time to get in on the action than right now, because you still have NFL, you have NHL, you have college sports. So there's no better time to start betting on all these sports and actually making money while doing it. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. When we look back at the Red Sox 2025 season, there were certainly some questions coming out of that season that were left unanswered, but there were also some questions that were answered, including the fact that they no doubt now have the ace of their starting rotation. No doubt about it, and it's very exciting because it was something that needed to happen. Now, another question that the Red Sox have answered is, while they traded away Rafael Devers, which obviously does leave for some unanswered questions still that they need to address this offseason, but they did answer one question, which is, who do they see being that face of the franchise moving forward? Obviously, Rafael Devers was the face of the franchise prior to him being traded. He was the guy that it seemed like the Red Sox were building the team around. He was the guy the Red Sox were willing to spend big money on, and that's why they ended up letting Xander Bogaerts walk, and they ended up trading Mookie Betts. They obviously didn't see them as long-term pieces that they wanted to commit to for years to come, but they felt differently about Devers and felt like he was a guy that they were willing to make that type of commitment to. So they said, okay, we're going to offer him this big extension. Obviously, eventually, that didn't pan out. They ended up trading him to the San Francisco Giants. When they did trade him, the Giants went downhill the rest of the season. The Red Sox went up. Coincidental? Maybe not. But there were all these questions about who's going to replace his productivity in the lineup, which is still certainly something that needs to be addressed this offseason. But there was also a question of, okay, like, who's the face of the franchise now? Who's that centerpiece that the Red Sox are going to continue to build around? And they certainly found that. And that player is Roman Anthony, who just has so much upside in Major League Baseball. Unfortunately, missed the last month of the season with an injury. But while he was playing, he was certainly a guy who would help fuel that Red Sox offense. He had 303 plate appearances and 257 at-bats with 48 runs scored, 75 hits, 8 home runs, 4 stolen bases, a 292 batting average, 396 on base percentage, 463 slugging, and 859 OPS. These are very impressive numbers for a rookie. The fact that not only was he able to get himself on base a lot, but he was able to do it in a consistent, effective manner because of his plate discipline. He shows plate discipline well beyond his years, which is something that 100% is going to be beneficial for him down the road. It's rare that you see a rookie with the potential that he has to be able to see pitches the way that he does. Swing selection for some players is difficult. We see it with Ceddanne Rafaela. One big thing that's been holding him back from really being able to explode offensively is the fact that he tends to chase a lot and he doesn't always have the best judgment when it comes to being able to figure out what pitches he should and should not be swinging at. We don't see that with Roman Anthony. Roman Anthony is a guy who will take pitches and will take walks, and he'll be patient at the plate. And you know what that does? That makes a very difficult and frustrating situation if you're an opposing pitcher, because the more that he works you, the more you're going to start to have to throw some of the same pitches, and the more likely it is that he's going to be able to see those pitches, figure them out, and launch one over the right field fence. I mean, this is the biggest thing about Roman Anthony's game that is going to help him continue to perform at a high level. Because of the fact that he's so patient and he'll put together long at bats, will give starting pitchers a little bit of an uneasy feeling to the point where he could then win that battle, because if they felt like they've thrown out every piece that they have in their pocket in terms of pitches and he's hitting all of them, or he's fouling them off, or he's sticking with the at bat, then all of a sudden the pitcher's like, all right, well, what am I supposed to throw now? He's basically seen all of my pitches. It puts him in a very good position to succeed down the road. And I actually spoke with the WooSox manager, Chad Tracy, before Roman had gotten called up. And I said, what is it about Roman's game that you feel is going to make him be very successful at the major league level? And he specifically highlighted that plate discipline, the fact that he makes very good swing decisions. And why is this also relevant? Because this is a young player. He's so young, has so much time left in his career. And the fact that the Red Sox gave him the extension that they did shows that there's no mystery when it comes to the fact that they see Roman as the face of their franchise for years to come. This is a player that they are going to take care of. This is a player they are going to continue to build around. And them trading Devers sent a message to some of these younger players like Marcelo Meyer, like Roman Anthony, that you need to be a team player. And if you refuse to be, it's just not going to be tolerated with the Boston Red Sox organization, because with the Rafael Devers situation and not wanting to move over to first base, not wanting to DH and all of that, if other players are seeing that and the Red Sox aren't really doing anything about it, then the young players are going to start to develop some of that behavior sometimes because they think it's okay. So by the Red Sox trading Devers, they sent a message that we would rather ship away a guy if it means reinforcing the fact that you need to be a team player here and that that's what this organization is about. Roman Anthony very clearly is the guy that the Red Sox value. And part of the reason why they didn't bring him back for the postseason was because they didn't want to rush him. There was a possibility heading into the postseason that he was going to be able to come in and DH for this Red Sox team, but the Red Sox chose not to do that. And if you're a team that wants to make a deep playoff run, of course you want all of your best players out there, but the Red Sox seemed unwilling to sacrifice the future of what could be with Roman Anthony just for a short-term stint in the postseason, because then if he had come back to DH and they still got eliminated when they did, then you're looking back on it and realizing that he's risking even greater injury because the Red Sox kind of rushed him back. And on top of that, now you're worried about the long-term career that he might have and struggling to find a true leadoff hitter because he might have to miss all of the next season. So there's a reason why the Red Sox weren't so adamant on bringing him back and rushing him back from the IL to be able to have him play in the postseason with this Red Sox team. So when we look at the Red Sox lineup and where it's at now, there's no mystery about the fact that they do absolutely need to acquire at least one, but probably two power bats this offseason to slot into that lineup. But when you think about face of the franchise, they have not lost that. Yes, they lost Rafael Devers, and they are still a team that needs to fill some holes this offseason, but it's not like they don't have an identity. They do have an identity, and Roman Anthony is at the center of that identity, who represents the future of what this Red Sox team could be. And we saw a lot of what the future could look like over the course of the 2025 season, but having that player in the mix who's going to be that guy for you for years to come, that's what we can be excited about. And when it comes to building a World Series contending team, you think about needs and you're continuing to commit to the success and development of a guy like Roman Anthony. So I'm walking away from the 2025 season with a firm answer on who the face of the franchise is. And that to me is Roman Anthony. And you could argue that maybe Garrett Crochet is the face of the franchise because he's the ace, but there was just too much hype surrounding Roman Anthony as a prospect. The fact that he was the top prospect in all of baseball, the fact that he's a guy who so many Red Sox fans were excited to see come up, the fact that the Red Sox have spent so much time over the last few years making it clear that Roman Anthony is not somebody they're willing to entertain in trades, and he's somebody who they see being part of their future for years to come. there's no doubt about the fact that Roman is that guy. And it feels good because it's always tough if you feel like you don't necessarily have a face of the franchise and you're sitting here wondering what the identity of the team is going to look like without that. And I do think for a temporary period of time in 2025, the Red Sox didn't really have that face of the franchise because it was before Roman got called up. So therefore, you have Roman now in the mix as the face of your franchise and a guy who for years to come is hopefully going to be able to contribute at a really high level. And also the fact that they had Jarren Duran hitting leadoff, but then when Roman got called up, they started putting him in the leadoff spot because that's the spot that he's hidden throughout his career. That's telling too, because it shows that the Red Sox are prioritizing him over other players on this team. They are prioritizing Roman Anthony and his comfortability level. And because of the fact that he was so used to hitting in that leadoff spot, the Red Sox were willing to say, okay, we are going to prioritize what Roman Anthony is most comfortable with because we value his presence and he is the guy that we see in the future being that guy for us. So therefore, we're going to say, okay, we are here for you. If you're comfortable in the leadoff spot, we want to do what we need to do to help you to thrive with the Boston Red Sox organization. So they are definitely bending over backwards for this kid, and I don't blame them because he is a truly special talent who for years to come is going to be the face of the team that they are going to continue to build around. And coming up, what's another big question that the Red Sox answered this season? That's next. Thank you so much for tuning into Locked On Red Sox and making it your first listen of the day. And thank you also for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. That truly could not happen without all of you tuning in every day and showing support. And I also have an exciting announcement that Locked On is launching a subtext subscription channel. So what this means is that if you subscribe to Locked On Red Sox on subtext, you can get exclusive one-on-one access to exclusive Red Sox content that you won't see anywhere else, like my interviews with players and coaches, any breaking news that comes out, be involved with pre, post, and during game interactions, and also one-on-one text messages with me to find out all of your Red Sox news and get all your questions answered. So make sure you subscribe to Locked On Red Sox on subtext, get your first 14 days free. And then if you enjoy it, it's $4.99 a month after that. So worth it. I promise you'll feel like such an insider. No doubt. What happens to the Boston Red Sox in 2026? That is obviously still to be seen. None of us can see the future here. If I could see the future, trust me, I would probably be making a lot bigger strides than I am when it comes to my life. But you know where I'm getting with that. Nobody can predict the future. But what we can do is be optimistic and excited about the future. And that's one thing that is certain about this Boston Red Sox team is that they have a bright future. That's a big question that they answered over the course of the 2025 season is the fact that there's no doubt about the fact that what they've been doing over the last few years about trying to focus heavily on revamping the farm system and bringing in players who are going to be big pieces for the Red Sox in 2026 and beyond. There's no doubt about the fact that they see this young group of players as a group that's going to be special. Now, going into the 2025 season, it was uncertain because there was a lot of uncertainty surrounding how these players were going to perform. You don't know how any of the young talent is going to perform until you see them out there actually doing it and playing every day. So there were questions surrounding, well, what is this Red Sox team actually going to be in 2025? And do the young players have the capability to step up and be the competitive team that we need them to be? And there's no doubt about the fact that they did do that. They made the playoffs with 17 players on the active roster who hadn't had an ounce of postseason experience prior to that. So that's the biggest thing with all of this is there's optimism because of the fact that the Red Sox had so many young players on their roster in 2025 that they got to the point where they could confidently say they have molded a core of players that could contribute longer term. Roman Anthony, who I talked about extensively, obviously at the heart of that. But then you also look at other players like Carlos Narvaez, Marcelo Meyer, Brian Bayo. young players on this team that the Red Sox are hoping will be part of this team for years to come. Even Connolly Early and Peyton Tolley, one of them may get traded this offseason, but if neither of them gets traded, it will tell me that the Red Sox also see them as future pieces of the Red Sox organization. And even the outfielders, who arguably are the best position players on the team as a whole position group overall. You look at guys like Wilyer Abreu, Ceddanne Rafaela, Jarren Duran. There's a mix of those guys that are going to be part of this future as well. Obviously, Roman Anthony goes without saying because I already mentioned him, but one of those outfielders likely is going to be on the move this offseason, which we all knew, but that is mainly because they are overcrowded in that position group, and that's a good problem to have. You want to have too many guys versus not enough guys and then scrambling to find guys to fill certain positions. And with where the Red Sox are at right now, they are in a really good spot to the point where they are packed in their outfield group. And if I am a Red Sox fan, I'm super excited about the idea of that, because these are guys who are hopefully going to continue to take off and continue to be pieces of the future that will get the Red Sox to be hoisting those championship trophies at some point soon and bringing home those really nice World Series rings. Now, this isn't to say that they don't need more time still. I'm not sitting here saying they'll definitely win the World Series in 2026, but the exposure that these young players got over the course of the 2025 season is life-changing. Getting that exposure to the postseason is going to be very highly beneficial for all of these players moving forward. And it's very exciting to think about what the future of the Boston Red Sox looks like in terms of that. And we can question the Red Sox front office. Are they willing to make the moves needed this offseason to surround that young talent with? That is still very much a question that remains. But one big question prior to 2025, over the course of 2022 on, really, after the last time they had made the playoffs in 2021, the biggest question was, well, what direction is this team actually going in? Is this a team that is going to make the playoffs again anytime soon? And what exactly is the primary goal of the front office? And now that they have this young core of players that they have developed in their system, you can see where the front office was coming from in terms of trying to emphasize young talent that's developing to acquire over the course of one offseason to the next. Because now you're looking at a situation where, okay, you developed guys through the draft that are now part of that future. You also, in the offseason, picked up some young players as well, who are also early on in their careers to help complement those guys that you drafted. And now you have this core that you're hoping will take off at some point. Now, the Baltimore Orioles had a young core of players that got them to the playoffs for a couple of years, and then they struggled in 2025. But the Red Sox are not the Baltimore Orioles in that they can also afford to pay a lot of players if they really want to. Not that the Orioles can't afford it per se, but the Red Sox are a bigger market than the Orioles, so they can afford to pay some more players. So now it's going to be a matter of how many of these players are they going to extend. They've already extended Roman Anthony. They've extended Brayan Bello. They've extended Garrett Crochet. They've extended Ceddanne Rafaela. Are there going to be more of those extensions happening? Is Marcelo Meyer a guy they're going to extend, or are they a little bit hesitant about him because of his injury history? Maybe they want to wait. So that's another question still that comes out of this. So there are certainly questions that remain as we think about heading into the 2026 season. But one thing I know that's for certain here is that the Red Sox definitely feel like they've done a lot of work to get this team to where they want it to be. And now it's time for us all to enjoy the ride and say, wow, I feel so confident in the young core that the Boston Red Sox have developed. And now if we can get those guys to continue to move on an upward trajectory, there's no reason to not feel like this Red Sox team can be a true World Series contender in the next couple seasons, ideally 2026. But again, can't predict the future, injuries and all of that. But what they have going for them right now with this young core answers a very firm question of, yes, the Boston Red Sox have a very bright future in Major League Baseball because we are seeing that come to fruition now. And the pipeline of prospects that they're hopefully going to continue to develop is only going to get deeper, and it's going to hopefully give the Red Sox more options down the road in terms of players who could come up and replace other guys who may be on expiring contracts or are on the later ends of their career that are on this team. Now they have more young talent that they can pull to fill some of those positions. So ultimately, at the end of the day, it's incredibly exciting to think about as a Red Sox fan because there are just so many young players on this team who are going to continue to prosper and develop. And it really confirms the front office's goals from 2021 on of just really revamping that farm system, identifying guys who could be really special talents that could help the Red Sox in the long run. And that is exactly what they did. And it's so great to be able to look back on it and say, wow, that was a long and frustrating few years because of the fact that they kept missing the playoffs, but now they're well set up for a future of long-term success. So I'm very excited to see what this team does, but thank you so much, as always, for tuning into Locked On Red Sox and making it your first listen of every single day. Be sure to next check out Locked On MLB with host Paul Sullivan, aka Sully, who will keep you informed on all things going on across Major League Baseball. You can find that on any podcast platform, so make sure you check that out next. And as always, keep the faith, go Red Sox, and I'll catch you on the flip side.